What's going on YouTube? Super Insane 18 here, and this is my top 8 Drytron deck profile. I think we had just a little over 30 people at yesterday's locals, and I did make it to top 8. Unfortunately, again, lost to a very good player in top 8. But without further ado, let's go on and take a look at the list. Alright, so kicking things off, we do run the 2 copies of Eva. I feel like this is necessary just to kind of maximize on your negates that you can play. The fact that the Beatrice can send one on your turn and then one on your opponent's turn really, kind of just gets you what you need in terms of playability and the ability to just tell your opponent that they're not allowed to play. Next, we have 3 copies of Diviner. This is easily the best card in the deck. Just the fact that it can be massive utility, either sending the Herald of Arclight to get you your ritual stuff, or sending like an Atis to be able to pop something on the field. Overall, really insane card. 3 copies of the Herald of Orange Light. This deck doesn't necessarily play hand traps, so I wanted to maximize on these because it is essentially a hand trap. It is searchable. It is able to out things like Droll, because Droll is really the only just flat out death of this deck. And that is it for the fairies. Next, we have the Drytrons, which we are playing 1 copy of Delta and 2 copies of Gamma. The reason that I am playing the 2 Gamma is because I want to be able to ensure that I can see it in a situation where I get drolled. I am playing stuff like Pot of Prosperity, so if I get drolled, I want to be able to at least Gamma to be putting more than 1 monster on the field and sitting on some stuff in the extra deck that will allow us to at least live a turn if we get drolled. 3 of the Alpha Thuban, pretty self-explanatory. It's one of the 2 best, and to match that, we have 3 of the Zeta, and again, pretty self-explanatory. It's the best. The Alpha and the Zeta search a ritual monster and ritual spell, respectively, so we definitely just want them for consistency. Moving on to the rituals, we have 3 different Cyber Angels, being Cyber Angel Natasha, Benten, and Ideten. Benten's obviously self-explanatory. Ideten can let you do some pretty cool combos, getting your stuff to be really strong with the 1000 boost that you get. And the Natasha is just an insane card. You can win in time just by gaining life points. You can steal your opponent's monster multiple times per turn and just link away, and it's just crazy. And then the last 2 rituals that we play are the 1 Draconids and the 1 Herald of Ultimateness. The Herald of Ultimateness is the power play of this deck. You are able to just negate everything that your opponent does. And the Draconids is more so for later game. It allows you to just swing for loads of damage, pop cards that your opponent controls. Overall, great card. So let's move into the spells. We are playing quite a few one-ofs. We have the one of Called by the Grave because we don't want to get drolled. The one of the Drytron field spell, just because we want to have a little bit more consistency. It's essentially like running 4 copies of Drytron Nova. We have the 1 Foolish Burial because it will let us just send any of our Drytron names, which is very important. It's pretty much the entire point of the deck. Then we have 1 Instant Fusion as our last one of. Again, it's just another droll out. The fact that we can make the Millenniumize Restrict will allow us to just play through a droll if they have it. Then we have 2 copies of the Meteonis Drytron Ritual spell. The reason that I play 2 is that I want to be able to abuse Zeta more than just on turn 1, and the fact that you can only add it back to your grave once per turn means that after turn 1, you're really only going to get to Ritual once per turn. If you have that second, you can Ritual more than once, and it just overall works out really well. Moving on to the 3 ofs, we have 3 copies of Cyber Emergency. Basically just a Rota for the deck. There's no explanation that's needed. Why wouldn't you play 3 Rota? 3 Drytron Nova. Again, it's like the E-Telly of the deck. Why wouldn't you play 3 E-Telly? Then we have 3 Forbidden Droplet. A lot of people are playing Valor instead of this card just because it is a level 1 and really just synergizes with the deck. I think that the Droplet is just flat out better because it can hit more. You can't respond to it. It doesn't target. Overall, just an insane card. And then the last 3 cards for the main, we have 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. The way that I see this deck is if you get drolled, you lose. If you don't, you win. This lets you dig for a droll out, whether you hit your Called by the Grave, or if you hit another fairy, if you have the orange light, or if you don't have the orange light but you have a fairy, you can hit the orange light. Overall, just let you dig for more outs. Let's go ahead and go into the extra. Alright, so for the extra deck, we are playing 1 copy of Millenniumize Restrict. That is for the Instant Fusion, like I stated. Then we are playing one copy of Natis. This is just for utility with the Herald. We can send it and pop a card. It will still make our Herald a level 6, which is what we realistically need the Herald to be, or the Diviner. So just utility. Then we have 2 copies of Arclight. The reason I run 2 is so that Diviner can do things after turn 1, which, granted, you can argue that that's what the Natis is for, but sometimes you don't need to pop a card, sometimes you just need to get another search, and that is definitely very helpful. Plus, the fact that you have 2 gives you a little bit of leeway with the Prosperity. You can banish 1 and still be able to play the game. Then I have 1 Drytron Mu Beta. Some people are playing 2. I'm considering it, but I don't really think you need the 2. As long as this effect goes off, you're pretty much going to win. And even if they stop it, then it doesn't really matter. You still have everything you need in your grave to just continue. 1 copy of Kikinagashi Fuko. This is the card that lets you play through Droll. If they Droll you and you don't have a way to stop it, you can just get 2 Drytrons on the board, make this, and that pretty much guarantees that your opponent cannot game you on the next turn. It is entirely unaffected and can't be destroyed by battle. So it does buy you a turn to just be able to at least live. Then we have the Downard. The Downard is necessary just because if you use the effect of Fuko to make sure that it can't be destroyed, you will not have the proper material to make Zeus. Downard gives you that proper material. Then we have a Beatrice. Beatrice is one of the new staples for this deck. You need it in order to send everything that you need. You get to send your Eva. If you need to, you can send another Drytron. Just another copy of Foolish Burial that you can use during either player's turn. Who can complain about that? And the last XYZ that we have is Divine Arsenal, AA Zeus, Sky Thunder. Pretty self-explanatory, just like everything else. If you can nuke the field, why not nuke the field? Gives this guy some really good utility, so we're going to play that. Moving on to the links, we have 1 copy of Linkaribo, self-explanatory, you're playing 1s. 1 copy of IP Masquerena, this is what you want to end on, just so that you have some more interruption on your opponent's turn. 1 copy of Lena the Light Charmer, really just good generic light support. Good for the mirror match, good for anything else, like you can take your opponent's Makabo, or yesterday in tournament I used it to reborn my opponent's Nibiru, which was pretty nice. And then if it's destroyed, you get to add any of your Drytrons, so can't complain there. 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 1 copy of Borrelsword. I think Borrelsword is better than Access Code in the extra deck here, just because you have the Draconids. Draconids essentially takes over the place of Access Code. You're able to just swing for tons of damage, pop multiple cards, and that, does exactly what you need it to do. So Borrelsword lets you push for that extra damage. And the final card that I'm playing is the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. I think this card is absolutely insane, especially when you pair it with a card like IP Masquerena. The fact that you are just able to non-target remove a monster on your opponent's side of the field by linking it away, then you can stop stuff like Tri-Brigade Revolt because it negates grave effects, and then it's unaffected by your opponent's card effects unless they target it. So, I mean, normally you say targeting effects are bad, but in this case, you have to target this card in order to do anything. So it ends up working out pretty well. Let's go on and take a look at the side deck. So kicking things off with the side, we have 3 copies of the Droll and Lockbird. This is mostly for the mirror match, but is honestly just good against everything. There isn't really a deck right now that isn't adding multiple cards to their hand in a single turn, so if you can Droll and Lock your opponent, it's pretty good. Like I said, it is the only hand trap that just flat out stops the Drytrons, so definitely a good card to have. Next, we have 2 copies of Ghost Bell. Again, just a really good card. It stops Drytron because they all include the effect to summon from grave. It can stop Tri-Brigade by hitting their revolts. It can hit the Shadal Invoked, either on the Invoked or the Shadal side, honestly. Definitely very good card. 2 copies of Artifact Lancia. The reason I'm not playing 3 is because it is searchable with Ben 10, so I don't feel the need to max out on it. Definitely a very good card for the format, but because it's searchable, there's no need to max out. Next, we have 3 copies of Denko Sekka. This is a card that honestly I didn't even consider until somebody suggested to me, and I'm not sure why. This card is just absolutely insane. This deck doesn't have a normal summon other than the Diviner, and going into game 2 or 3, if I'm against a back row deck, I will 100% normal this over the Diviner any day. It'll allow me to just play my Drytrons for absolutely free without needing to worry about what their back row is. So just really crazy, honestly. Then we have 1 copy of Necroworld Banshee and 1 copy of Zombie World. This is just a really cool combo because what you can do is on your opponent's turn, use the Beatrice to send the Banshee. Banshee will activate in the grave and let you set the Zombie World, and it does just lock out a lot of decks. And then finally, we have some more back row hate being Harpy's Feather Duster and Double Twin Twister. These cards are, again, just pretty self-explanatory. You feel like you're in a really heavy control format. This will just kind of get you where you need to go. The only change that I would consider making is maybe cutting these for like Mystic Mine. In theory, Mystic Mine is insane in this deck. Nobody's going to side in back row against Drytron, and if they have it in the main, they're more likely going to take it out, just because back row isn't really an issue, so Mystic Mine can be a free win for you. But other than that, it's the only change that I would make, so there you guys have it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Drytron deck profile. I definitely look forward to playing this deck in the upcoming format, especially with that new ban list that just came out. Definitely, I think, solidifies this deck as the #1 deck of the format. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.